why do the UFOs show up there? Why are there so many going there and spotted there over most any place else in the world? There are other UFO hotspots, but Skinwalker Ranch area is definitely one of them. This shot right here, this is basically a collage of all the UAPs that they had seen over the ranch during last season. They put them all together into one picture, and that's a lot of them. And it was when the drill rig was in the ground, their compasses were changing. Instead of pointing to north, they were pointing at the drill rig. I mean, how does things like this happen?
I feel like with the insiders, it's really unique where it doesn't feel like we're fans anymore necessarily. Like we are, but like we're involved.
Right.
And that feels much more official than a fan.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the JFree906 podcast and our Secret of Skinwalker Ranch series. And tonight we have we got a full house tonight. We got Shannon Desalvo joining us and Mr. Pete Kelsey. And of course, Seth. Thank you guys for all being here tonight. It was kind of funny because I was talking in the Skinwalker Ranch Insider live stream, and I love to check in the mornings when the sun is coming up over the Mesa. It is so cool. It really truly is. And watching it, and then Pete jumped in there, and then we got talking, and he and I had discussed a little bit at one time about him giving us a LiDAR and a photogrammetry 101 lesson on that stuff. And he said, hey, I could do it this week. So I'm like, let's bring it on. Let's do it. So I am so excited. And I have Shannon here. You get a chance now to talk about Skinwalker Ranch, the show.
How exciting. I never get to do that.
I know. It's
Thank
always
you for having me.
Program, which is good too. I mean, I love the Insider program.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's awesome.
The show is what brought me to the Insider program.
Exactly.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
Yes. Oh, let me get rid of the banners still floating across the bottom because we have started, by the way. Huh?
We have begun.
We have begun. I'm a little negligent in my duties here. Let's, if I can find the right button. There we go. Get rid of that. All right. And bring up the chat. Well, we got a lot of folks here. Thank you all for coming here tonight and joining us. We will be breaking down. We're going to kind of do this because we have Pete here with us tonight. We're going to be breaking down the Skinwalker Ranch Season 4, Episode number 4, The Watchers. We're going to be doing that. And I want to get input from all of my guests tonight, including Mr. Kelsey and Professor Kelsey, as we were talking earlier. We have Professor Bard and we have Professor Kelsey. So he's going to be helping us out.
True.
A lot of that kind of stuff. And all that. So, and of course, thank you. Linda is helping us with the chat tonight. Linda, thank you so very much for that. And Jan wrote another awesome synopsis for the episode. So, Jan, again, thank you. I couldn't do this without the team. Honestly, it takes a team and a village, as John Edwards always says. It takes a village to make it happen, and it truly does. And I really appreciate you guys and my guest and co-host tonight. So, thank you for being here with us tonight. So, wow. With that said, I would also like to just say, click and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Subscribe to the channel. We are now over 5,000 subscribers. And I tell you, that was a pinnacle I never thought I would get to, but there it is. And so thank you for everyone who has subscribed, and give us a thumbs up if you like the content of our show. So, and also one last thing I'd like to say is if you would like to become a insider for Skinwalker Ranch, which I think all of us are, of course, and we love it. And I talk about it because I enjoy it so much. There's a link down below in the description. You can click on that link. It is a paid program, but you get about a 10-day free trial, and you can go check it out and see if you like it. And you will get hooked right away. As soon as Eric comes on, or Pete, or one of the cast members comes on and starts telling us about stuff, you're in. I mean, you'll be in right off. Yeah. There's no going away from the collective.
That's true. Even Pete's addicted to it now.
Yes, he is.
We know you are.
Yeah.
He started showing up every once in a while, and then it was every day. And we're like, hey, I guess Pete's going to hang out with us now. He's a regular.
Yep. Yeah, and with you being moderators, both of you, we see Pete and you when you show up there and you say something because your names are in blue. The invasion
We
of the
turned
Smurf.
Pete blue.
Yeah.
We did. So people would see that it was him when he came in. He needed like a special highlight to his name.
That's how I saw him yesterday morning. It was just that way. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not worthy.
Yes,
we should start giving you some mod duties, Pete.
Yes,
start
piling on.
Yeah. And he might back away. He might be like, nope, I'm good.
What happened to Pete? He used to come here every day. I don't know what happened to him.
No, we won't.
Goodness. Well, thank you folks for coming here and joining us here tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun because we're going to step down through a little closer look at episode number 4, The Watchers. We're going to talk about that, which was kind of cool because they recapped a little bit of what took place last week. Jim, oh my gosh, Jim, thank you so much. Take us down the Skinwalker rabbit hole. You brought tacos for everyone. All right, awesome. Yeah, Jim and I tell you, we love that taco truck that was at Phenomenon last year. Oh, so good. It was so good. And it better be there again this year, or I'm gonna throw a fit with I'll be hunting down Thomas. Thomas. I tell you, and the Phenomenon, another great thing too, that's happening in September. September, it's the weekend after Labor Day weekend. It starts on I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Can't wait to go to that again this year in Vernal, Utah. For those of you who have not been to it, you really want to check that one out. It is really, really good. Are you coming, Seth, this year? Are you going?
I'm planning on it. September 5th through the 9th, I believe.
Yeah, it is really, really good. And it's so cool because you're in there and you're getting ready to sit down and watch a particular speaker come up and talk, and you look over and there's Eric standing right there. Hey, Eric, you can walk up and talk to him, or Thomas or Kaleb or Pete, Kelsey, or
you went live last year with a couple people from the cast, didn't you?
Yeah, I walked around. I was live and I walked around and I was gathering up all kinds of folks.
You went live with Travis and Eric, I think, too, and Thomas. That was cool.
And then I got Russell Acord from Expedition Bigfoot. I got him on there, and some of the insiders that were hanging around, and it was a lot of fun. You gonna be there this year? Are you gonna be joining the Phenomenon?
Me?
Yeah.
Just signed my contract. Yes, sir.
You're on both shows.
Yeah. Well, Tom was really helpful getting that done. But once they understood that I'd worked on both, they're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm glad you're going to be there. That's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, Phenomenon in Vernal, Utah, folks. I tell you, it's a great time. You get to learn so much and listen to all the presentations from all the speakers that'll be there. It's really, really a great time. And we get to launch rockets with Travis and the guys. I can't wait for that. And the meditation with we're going to the meditation with Thomas's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Melissa.
That's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
Save a few pennies for what Eric and I are gonna do.
Ooh.
Okay. Save all the pennies. You can't just say that though. Come on. How many pennies should we be saving? I'm excited.
Man. Yeah.
Can you hear the lawyers knocking on my door already?
I can.
Turn the lights out quick.
Right, dive under the desk.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, yeah. Miriam was there last year. She's going to be. I met Miriam. She's in the chat right there. I met her when we went to McConkey Ranch.
Cool.
Yeah. So, look at that. James Keenan. Yes, indeed. Yeah, James, I got to meet him last year. This guy, it's going to be awesome. Can't wait to go. All right, let's get down to business here. So right off the bat, and I will get my pictures rolling here. So we've got to roll through this so we can get to Pete's presentation. All right, let's bring up mine right here. All right, whoops, that didn't work. There, no, why is it not working? Add the screen. There we go. There it is. All right. So the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, in, as I said, season 4, episode number 4, The Watchers. And this one starts off with us taking us right to the command center, right off the bat. And they're examining the rocket. Now, you guys remember the rocket last week when they shot off a few of them. And one of them took off, and the last one, and it actually exploded. And it hit about 31 feet, and then it hit something, and it exploded. And again, it's kind of, we're still trying to figure out exactly what it was that it hit or was deflected on, or what caused it to explode.
So you don't think something hit it?
We don't know, but it's possible because, yeah, I mean, you would say yes. In a way, I would agree with exactly with what you just said, because if you look at the tip of it, and there's the nose cone right there, and it's not damaged, it's not bent over or broken or whatever. So it would appear that it didn't actually collide with something, but there was a catastrophic failure on its rise. And Travis had said that he has this particular motor. Now they have the engines that they put into these rockets, and of course there's several different types of these engines, but he has launched literally 1,000 or more of these rockets with that same type of engine in it. And that's what he was talking about, and how he's seen failures, but never anything like this in all of those. So, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jim. It's a little bit too intact to have sustained a collision. Yeah, Jerry says I think it was zapped.
Right.
I mean, and you heard Kaleb. What was the thing that Kaleb had mentioned during this when they were talking about this later on? He said something about either a wormhole or I'm sorry, a portal or a shield of some sort, a barrier of some sort. And that's not that far-fetched to think about, that something like that may have been the problem. And as you remember, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I don't think anything is too far-fetched to think about at this point.
No.
I feel like you could literally throw out anything and I'd be like, yeah, okay, that could happen. Sure. I thought it was funny. I think it was this episode when Thomas was like, I would say you're not going to believe this, but you're going to believe this. And I thought that was so perfect, because it's true. It's like, it's absolutely, you just are along for the ride. So
yeah,
I would,
and in the spirit of following the data, I mean, there are too many examples to mention. The GPR, my laser scanning getting one little narrow corridor of no data. And when you line all that stuff up, this is the beauty of what I do. It's all more or less in the same location.
Yeah, that's the key right there. That is one of the key points. It's not spread out all over the place. It's basically one location where these things are happening, and that helps you narrow down. I mean, we heard in the early episodes when they first started realizing that there was something happening about a mile high, and something that Travis kept saying, about a mile high over the triangle, we're getting this weird, but to really, as far as we were concerned, we were all, at least I was still kind of questioning what could he possibly be putting together to get this information that there's something up there. And now last year added to it, and now this season is adding even more to it, saying, yeah, there's something going on in this area above the ranch.
For sure. And I think what's interesting is like I've heard people, it's been awesome hearing so many different theories on it.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I have been hearing a bit is that something hit the rocket, like it had come in to purposely put it down. And I'm not saying that's not what it is. I just think it's interesting that it was in that area specifically. So it made me wonder if, like, because the rockets beforehand didn't do it, so was there something atmospheric that happened that caused it to put something out that then caused this last one to do it? Is it sort of like when you're poking at I'm not going to use the hornet's nest analogy. I refuse to. But is it something like that? Is it after a while that it's happening? I mean, it makes you. That's what it made me think of. It's like if it didn't happen for the first couple of ones, but it happened on this one, and it's the side. Is it because something made it engage? Right? Like if you were to turn on a light switch or something like that. Which I could be so off base. It's so weird to try to make assessments on an early episode when you know that the rest of the season is coming and we could get more information. And like, Pete, I know you know things that you probably cannot say, and you're just going to have to be quiet and we'll just read into your face to be like, she's so off base. She's making a fool of herself. Because I mean, that's how the guys are too, is like, we make all of these jumps as to what we think it is, but I'm sure we'll learn more as the season progresses.
Yep.
Kind of what you were saying with maybe something activated it after those first couple launches, or whatever makes it be, I don't know if transient's the right word, or where rockets can pass it. Maybe that requires some sort of energy and it can't sustain that. So maybe by the third one, it kind of had to.
That's an interesting thought.
Materialize.
I think that's a great thought too. Transient is often what comes to mind when I think of what's there. So that would make sense.
That's a great analogy.
Pete's saying nothing, so we know
we're either on the money or we're way off.
I keep having this vision of, a couple of guys drinking a beer in another dimension, pulling the strings and going, watch what I'm going to do to these knuckleheads now. It just feels like somebody is enjoying, watching dopes like me and the rest of the guys react,
Well, it's so entertaining to see how you react. That's what I would be doing.
Yeah, I tell you, it's and you get that kind of feeling sometimes too, that they are. Well, for me, it's a couple different ways. One is they are messing with us or messing with the guys, the team, and two, it could be that they are reacting and they're trying to communicate. They're going, okay, they're reaching out. Let's try to communicate with them in some way. And we are oblivious to the form of communication. I don't know.
I mean, I definitely think we're oblivious to the form of communication.
Yeah.
I don't know how that applies to maybe this specifically, but I think that I'm kind of the mindset that we're not capable of investigating it in some regards, because we don't even, it's like the old analogy of like, how can you describe a color you've never seen? Or it's like, how do you know what to test if you don't know what you're testing? I think it's like solving a puzzle where some of the pieces are invisible and hidden and you're blindfolded and you don't actually know what the picture's supposed to look like. That's what I always think of when I think of the ranch. It's just like, you just sort of grab it what you can and do what you can with what you can see, and then just hope that those missing pieces are somehow you're able to fill in.
Yep. I'm thinking that I know, right? I hate that it covers you up. I have to do this. So
you need to go like this over it next time.
I'm thinking that transmitting that signal requires an answer sequence, and if it doesn't happen, Yeah, if it doesn't happen, the portal repels. Very interesting, SMS Pirate. It's like that. It's like that thing. If you don't give if I'm going to throw out the question, you need to give the answer, and it needs to be the proper answer. And if you don't, then we're going to shut down anything you're trying to do from that point on.
There you go.
I like
There
that.
was a show. What show was that? There was a movie or a TV show where it had that. I can't. It'll come to me probably after we're done tonight. It'll come to. Oh yeah, that was it. It had that. Reminds me of the movie Alien Code. Vesta. Interesting. The one thing I was looking at here, and this is, I'll get on past the rocket, looking at this portion of it in a moment. But as the two pictures, and I grabbed these two pictures, and I'll put them back up here so we can see them, and then we'll, as messages come up and block that. But the two pictures that we had here were this one, and then this one that was just a frame or two later, and with the high-speed camera that is taking these frames at 1,000 frames per second. That's amazing to me. I can't wrap my brain around that, quite honestly. But you see the image right here, right? And then the next one. The thing of it is the image doesn't change. It just gets brighter. And that's the thing that really kind of grabs me. It's not like it's smoke going by or it's clouds going by or anything like that, because the image doesn't change as the rocket gets closer to it. It just gets brighter and more defined. And that's what kind of boggles my mind on that a little bit. That's what tells me it has to be something there versus a simple reflection of light or reflection of the light that's being emitted towards it. I don't know. I might be way off base on that, but that's kind of way I get a hold of that. I see a cowboy hat. Somebody's.
I think another thing that we've been told is that they were able to see, instead of the impression of like the helicopter going dark, that it was behind it.
Yeah.
Which I think, if that's true, is one of the most mind-blowing thing. Like that, if that is true, if the helicopter in fact did go behind it and did not go dark, that will be one of the most wow, like the biggest wow moment, I think, for me.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's one of the things,
so far.
and you can jump in anytime you want to, but that's one of the things that Eric actually said in, I don't know if he said that in the episode or if he said it last night.
He didn't say it in the episode.
Okay, so yeah, it was a little bit of insider, because as you guys know, and we've talked about this before, on Thursday nights, the team from the ranch gets together with the insiders and they go live and they have what they call the revelations, where they talk about the current episode or the recent episode that just happened, and they kind of take us through it a little bit more. I can share some of it with you, but I will not share it all.
I think that was actually mentioned publicly, or I wouldn't have said anything. I think that was that floated around Twitter.
Okay.
And it might have been from Brandon or one of the guys. I'm not 100% sure, but I wouldn't have said it otherwise. But yeah, I know that it's been in the public sphere in some capacity.
Eric mentioned he needed to reevaluate the footage to confirm, but we're thinking it didn't go dark. It just did from the under view.
Yeah.
Which is
I agree
wild.
with you, Shannon. That is wild. Which is why I think they maybe were there to intimidate or whatever, but I think they messed up because I think,
absolutely. What a wonderful synchronistic moment. If that's the case, if they were trying to do something intimidating or nefarious or whatever, like if that ends up being the case, imagine if they hadn't shown up and that piece of information was never gathered from it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it ended up actually, because from the point of view of the guys, when that helicopter went behind the anomaly, it went dark. They didn't see any lights, and then it emerged on the other side. Again, you look at the fact, how in the heck could that happen if there's nothing there?
Right.
Or did it turn
and Pete's silent, so we know. We know.
Your silence tells us everything.
He's like, I'm innocent. I'm not breaking my NDA.
He's like, I'm not getting in trouble for you guys.
I swear, when you see the ninjas drop out of my ceiling, they're all attorneys.
Oh, but yeah, that's a very Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah, yeah. You mentioned it
He's
on
been
the
talked about a
YouTube
bit.
chat. Yeah, he did. So very interesting point to be made there as well. So uh what if there's
Support to who?
an yeah. Yeah. So all right. So let's keep moving on here so we can get to Pete's part. All right. So one of the things that they were looking at, and they were analyzing the high speed footage in the command center. And one thing that you see right there that Travis is pointing to is this little cone that he's looking at. It's basically this little cone that's on top of the rocket as it is up right. It's at the moments before it explodes, and it does not continue going up. Um, you see that little cone right there, okay? And then in the next picture, which they're backing it up one frame, then you see it here. That's not there. Well, it's just barely starting to emerge right there. You can just barely see it, and then you go ahead one frame, and there it is. That's one frame of 1,000 frames per second. And there's this cone right there showing up, and then it's gone, and you have the explosion taking place. So they were asking the question, is that a reflection of the anomaly? Is it lighting up part of the anomaly, or is it simply an action of the light being reflected somehow? Really don't have an absolute answer on that, but again, it's just odd that it's in that one frame. Not only that, but also this right here. And they played this for Eric. Eric had not seen this yet at this point, and he noticed something right there. You see this little dot right there by the mouse pointer. Now, that little dot was again something that showed up in one frame only.
1 millisecond.
1 millisecond. This item or this object or this pinpoint of light, whatever you want to call it, was there. And then it was gone. And I had only just the one picture of it, but yeah, there you see it. And that's not a star or anything like that. It's showing up right above the mesa because you can see the wall of the mesa behind it or below it. So was that one of our UAP friends showing up for a moment? Did that UAP friend have anything to do with the failure of the rocket? We don't know. But interesting how they always seem to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So next day they get going and they go out to the mesa and they are bringing out the crane. Now you guys know the area that they're concentrating on. It's the area that they showed last week. Here's the crane making its way out there, and it was this area right here where they did the GPR data. Now the GPR data, you remember that Thomas did when he was actually carrying the unit that he had. And I did reveal this last week, Pete. I did talk about this already. This was from the Insider program that was mentioned, and I did share it, and I didn't get in trouble. But this originally, the unit that Thomas was carrying was originally supposed to be flown, right, by
That's
one of
right.
your drones.
Yep.
It made it you were unable to fly properly, or do you want to elaborate on that at all?
It was just right at the weight limit to fly safely, and I attempted one test flight and said, no way. I barely had any control. Pardon me. So we aborted that and sent Tom up the hill. Lucky guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was talking about how he was sweating and going on, and then all of his data was unusable. Well, 10%, I guess, right? Something like that.
Yep.
Sorry, Seth, what were you going to say?
Just exactly what you said, that it was all for kind of nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Can you go back to that image for just a minute?
Yeah.
Is that easy or hard?
Yeah.
Okay. These are the subtle things that just because I'm the data guy.
Mm-hmm.
In the top half of the image, I would call that the plan view, meaning you're looking straight down. You see where the dot is along the trajectory that Kaleb walked. The dot is where the anomaly is in the profile view that you see below.
Right.
Now, if you extrapolate a little further, back up in the plan view, you see that depression that's full of fallen rock.
Darker too. Yeah.
Right there.
Just saying, that's the drill site. That's a very interesting area. So for all the sleuths out there, insiders and everybody else, wow.
Yeah, for sure. And not only that, but I think, isn't it not right here where the crane ends up setting up right there?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And that's where the missing data from one of your scans was at, the shadow I've been calling it.
Basically pointed to the area. Yeah, that was really crazy as well. So
that blew my mind.
And you can tell just by the coloring of the rocks there that there is a unique swale or valley or depression there that is really obvious from Google Earth.
Is this the same area where they had the geologist say that it looked like an unnatural sort of rock fall to him?
That I don't remember.
I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly.
I believe it was, Seth. I believe you're correct. I believe that was the area. He said it looked like a cave-in or a collapse of some sort, whether natural or not. He said actually he was saying that he didn't think it was natural
because of the amount of materials on the bottom, right?
Right. The debris did not flow out from it. It just simply fell in on itself.
Yeah. So, and that leads up to the crane coming out, and let's have a look at what's going on in this particular spot.
Yep. And that the other thing to note about this was that it went down 40 meters. And we talked about this last week a little bit. And I think Travis said during the show, he said, that's the height of the Mesa. So whatever this anomaly is that we're seeing right here.
What the heck? Is that normal, Pete? Like, is this something that...
No. Even Jan said so much. Jan's eyes got this big. He said something to the effect of, that is anomalous. And with nothing else being on either side, or basically throughout the rest of Kaleb's track,
that doesn't look natural.
Yeah.
No, it's
straight. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
I just think about the fact that, like, you have this, which is anomalous, and then you also have the triangle, which is anomalous. So now you've got 2 points that are highly unusual, which is just like, if it was just one of them, that would be, there you go, Seth. You have to go like this. Put your little hands up.
Okay, next time.
Just one of them would be an incredible thing, I think, or mind-boggling. The fact that there are two, obviously for me, that makes me go, how are they related? Are they related? Is there something that we cannot see that's happening between them?
Yeah. Well, it even stacks up higher. This is where the drone swarm, all the signal to all 200 of them was lost there.
Right.
The helicopter's GPS went bananas. My GPS goes bananas. I mean, anyway, that image of Jan's GPR data just feels like a big smoking gun to me.
Yeah, a lot of questions kind of flew by there, and I'll bring them up here real quick. It's that also, there's many things that we're talking about your data that you had, Pete. Is that where the data disappears? That streak that repeatedly shows blank? Yes. Is that also where the shadow missing data? Yes. Pete, Kelsey, I can't logically understand how your data got misplaced during your scan. I mean, how did it get way over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
I
indeed.
don't know.
Yeah. And there's that drinking game. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah. You see this face? This is I just walked in and my grandmother bent over in the shower face. It's like,
Oh my god.
Yep, exactly.
sorry.
No, that's
Visuals I didn't need,
but that's
but we'll
but
never
you're-
forget.
yeah, but that's exactly right. I mean, that's and then and you're right here also. Robert had also mentioned it almost looks almost like the cave was there before, and that's the area, if I remember correctly, also that our friend Chris Bartell said
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
there was some sort of a cave or an opening or something there that is no longer visible.
Right.
Yeah. So, oh, Judy, thank you so much. That's so awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So, yeah. So, and while they're doing this, so when they get the crane out there, get back to the crane for a minute. When they get the crane out there, they also get an antenna going and they're getting ready to receive any signals that may come in. So, there's Travis setting up the antenna. And there is Alan Morrison getting ready to operate the crane. And these guys are all getting set with all their equipment over there to analyze what signals they may receive. And then, of course, you've got Thomas coming on and saying what Shannon shared with us earlier. Guys, I was going to say that you're not going to believe this, but you're probably going to believe this. The crane is non-operational at the moment. He can't pick up the counterweight.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Thomas quotes, I think.
Yep.
Ever.
And as Pete would say, the crane operator just got skinwalkered.
Yep. Send in the t-shirt.
I've been skinwalkered. That's going to be a t-shirt. I swear it's going to be. I'm going to find that. It's going to be at Phenomicon probably this year. And Thomas and his boys will be selling them. That's where I got this one from their booth.
And I should say, I mean, I make light a lot of this, but don't think for a second that, well, I'll only speak for myself. That's just kind of the way I deal with some of this stuff, because otherwise, I don't think it would be, I don't know how else to deal with it, right?
And have the potential to, drive you crazy, I think, if you don't.
Yeah. The flash and the orb above the crane. I don't remember that.
Neither do I.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember where it was mentioned. I feel like that was mentioned, but I don't.
Oh.
I can't tell you where I heard that, so I'm not going to say anything about it.
Yeah. Paint Skinwalker on the crane. Yeah, that's a good idea right there. Yeah, for sure. So how many people are going to need I've been Skinwalkered t-shirt? Yep. I don't really want to be Skinwalkered, but Jess can put it on the tumblers. Yes. Jess Grollo, who does the engraving on these tumblers. She can put that I've been Skinwalkered on a tumbler. Yeah, it's a great idea. We got to give credit to Mr. Kelsey for that, though. I think you're the one that coined that phrase. So,
and there's been 1,000% increase in brown sock sales since you've mentioned it as well.
I have no filter.
We appreciate that. I mean, I do at least.
I do. I absolutely do. Yes. Oh, absolutely. For sure. And that's there was one other comment that I saw fly by here, but I got to keep moving on. So we got to get to Pete, and we really do. I got to keep moving here. So, all right. So one of Thomas's great things here, you're not going to believe this, but in this case, you are. So, I was thinking during this time, I'm thinking, well, shut the crane completely down and restart it, reboot Windows, because it's so electronic.
That usually works.
Yeah, it's so computerized now. Shut it down and restart it. It'll probably work just fine. But all of a sudden, it started working. And it was all about that time they did start getting the 1.6 gigahertz signal.
Yeah, I would have liked what you said, Jeff. Like turn it off and on, see if the 1.6 starts and stops with.
Yep. Yeah.
Those rocks were so big.
Yeah. You can't even fathom. I can't, and what was funny, because they were talking about how, and this is a little insider thing that was really talked about last night, was that Travis and Thomas kind of figured out how much each of these weighed by looking at them. Now, how they figure that out, I have no idea. Both of their brains work like in that kind of realm where they can look at it and start figuring that,
They might have snuck a peek at the screen in the crane operators.
Yeah. I mean, they all just look like they could crush me. That's how I judge the weight of a rock. Can it crush me? Can it not? It's one of those two things.
Yep. So, but all of a sudden it starts working again. And I thought the really cool thing is that when it was failing, they were getting the 1.6. And then as he got working, it was okay. They were still getting the signal as he was actually starting to be able to work. When he shut down, because they got to a point where they couldn't take any more of the Jenga pieces out because it was all collapsing down on them. And I said that last week. I said, man, they take that crane out there and they start taking all these rocks out of there. There's a lot of them up that hill that could come crashing down on that crane. And they got to be very, very careful how they handle that. So they took out about 20 or so, something like that. There is and I didn't get a clip of it, but there's a picture of them all piled up on the side, roughly 20. And they had to stop because of that reason. And as soon as he shut the crane down, the 1.6 signal was gone. Now, explain that. I don't know. It baffles the mind.
It's just another data layer. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Gone. It just stopped all of a sudden. So, and there was some talk about the crane. Why couldn't they reach out farther and get some more on the top? Because of the weight of them and the size of this crane. They did the best they could to get this crane out there. It's the biggest one they could get quickly to come out and do the job. And it can't reach out too far because the fulcrum would end up tipping it over.
My understanding is that this is more of a precision job anyways. They don't want to move all the rocks. They want to keep as much of the Mesa as they can. Brandon is what does he call himself? Not a caretaker, but Steward. Thank you.
That's the word.
Yeah, you're not being a good steward if you go in and deface it, and that's just the land, not to mention what could possibly be under there. So I kind of wasn't. I didn't expect them to move much. I thought they were going to move what they needed to get the drill where it needed to get.
Right. That's exactly.
I absolutely agree with that. I hope that. I mean, it's already been done now. So, but from what we know of them, I imagine it's the minimum amount, and I think that's what it should be. Like, you get right to where you need to and not anything more just because you can. I think that's the big conversation is like, just because you can blow something up doesn't mean that you should.
Exactly. And that's something that, they were very adamant about that last night. Blowing it up? Really? I mean, come on, people.
Yeah.
No, you don't blow it up. You don't go in there and deface it like that. All right. So the next day they bring out, Brandon comes out. And he brings along with him the Utah Attorney General, Mr. Sean Reyes. And they come out to have a little discussion about, they wanted to kind of talk to him a little bit, not only talk about what had happened, but also discuss with him about the issue with the helicopter that was seen. And they wanted to show him the footage. There they are in the command center. And so they talked about this a little bit, and they kind of went over some of this. And one of my things that I loved about it was that Cameron was able to tell that it was a Black Hawk helicopter just by listening to the sound of it. I mean, that is a true man who knows his helicopters right there. I'm telling you. And hopefully Pete is not keeping the lawyers away from his door right now. So we'll if the lights go out at Pete's house, we'll know that the lawyers are there. But that was a great takeaway from right here. And one of the things that the Attorney General, Sean Reyes, had said was that he was going to check and see if he could figure out what was going on there, because he did not like the idea that somebody was flying around without a transponder. Now, we know that the military can do that, but no one else is allowed to do that, especially in an area that they had already talked about shooting off the rockets and they had that area. What was that called again?
No
I
Tam
know you
notice.
NOTAM.
Yeah.
That's a NOTAM notice to say they're going to be doing something in the air to clear that, keep that area clear. So no transponder. Eric didn't see it on the ADSB, but yet they all visualized the helo flying around. So yeah, it was quite the big deal. All right. So then we go back out to the triangle, and they also join back up with Burdette Anderson. Burdette Anderson comes out, and he brings his high-speed cameras. There they are right there. And they also put a GPS, one of Eric's GPSs, on the helicopter so that he can do his own tracking of the helicopter's movements. And this is where they're going up with the experiment, where they're getting up there to take, you see all those medicine balls right there stacked up right here on the floor. And I think there's supposed to be 10 of them, right? I think they were going to do 5 at 1,000 feet and 5 at 5,000 feet. And all the while, Eric is going to be, I was just reading that chat right there. On that pic you showed right over there was 2 orbs at the same time, 1.6 gigahertz, caught some, and it showed it on Discord. Oh,
I'm gonna check that out.
yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out too. And I love this unit right here that Eric is holding in his hands. They talked about what this thing was. A handheld Spectran device. A handheld Spectran device. They want to pay particular attention to the 1.6 gigahertz while they're up there to see if these when they drop these medicine balls. Now they drop the bottles with the GPS trackers. They've done so many things to try to go through the anomaly area to see what would happen. And so they got up there and they were flying. They got to the first level, and this is where Thomas was looking up this tower right here, trying to sight the helicopter to make sure it was directly overhead to try to help them. And this is when he started getting the tingling in the back of his neck and in his head. And it got to a point where he felt he needed to leave the ranch. The guys were joking about how this always seems to happen Friday at 1 o'clock. Sorry. But it is a serious thing. It shouldn't. I'm laughing about it, but I shouldn't, because it is a very serious thing. We know that Thomas has had these, issues in the past. And anytime anyone, and I'm sure Pete, they tell you guys this, anytime any of you start feeling anything like that, bring it up and talk about it, and let's take action on it right away. I'm sure that's probably part of the safety protocol, is it not?
Oh yeah, and a whole lot of paperwork to sign. Everybody watches everybody else all the time.
Yeah, you have to. You absolutely have to. So he left the ranch right away to get clear of the area, and he ended up coming back on Monday, which is great, and he was fine, which is awesome. But yeah, definitely get off there right away when something like that when they notice something right away. And here's Eric showing that unit again. That thing is just cool. Some kind of ray gun looking device. And he did pick up a signal when they started dropping the balls down.
And this is from Eric's Spectran.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he's telling Cameron while they're in a helo that he's picking up a signal at 1.6 or roughly 1. It's not exactly 1.6.
So
that's the range that they're looking.
That's a visualization of the radio frequency. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah, spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and that's the signal right there that they're picking up at 1.624-ish, right in there. Yeah, 602.4, right in that range, which is the range that they're always watching for. It's not always exactly 1.6 gigahertz, but it's in that range that they're always watching.
Visually overlay that visual right there over Jan's data, over the anomaly in Jan's data. You see the similarity?
Oh.
Sorry, distraction.
No.
Not a distraction. Not a distraction. That's very, yeah.
I mean, okay, humans see patterns.
Yes, we do.
as far as I know, I'm human. That sure looks familiar.
It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
That's
It really does.
that's a very good point. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
familiar shape. Kat said familiar shape. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, earlier in the episode, Travis, they did the flashback to 2019 where he talked about where he first noticed the 1.6, and he really was hitting on the, where he was saying that Kaleb wasn't far off to speculate it could be a wormhole, because that he said that could be the amount of energy required to open a wormhole.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how that connects to that. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry, science people, for butchering that.
Yeah, I don't know. You did a better job with it than I could have. Yeah. But yeah, that's very true. So there's the helicopter. They're watching from the command center as it goes up and does its thing. And there is Kaleb dropping out these medicine balls. This is at 5,000 feet here where he's dropping these out. And one thing that was noted, that right here, I've got no GPS position.
This was the first time I ever saw what looked to be actual concern on Cameron's face. Like throughout the seasons when he's been up there, this was the very first time that I perceived there to be actual concern.
He was
in his face.
Yeah, you're right. Because in previous episodes, when all the weirdness was happening, I was chuckling at his like, "Huh, that's funny," and I thought,
just
man,
like
he's such
still
a pilot.
very,
yeah,
like very calm. Not that he's not calm here. I think that's probably a job requirement for somebody who flies helicopters. But you can tell in his eyes that it's not
something concerning.
Fake, for example, because I know a lot of people have comments about that online, but like genuine concern and confusion a bit, which I enjoy. I love how like nonchalant everybody is, including yourself, Pete, to just hang out the side of that helicopter. It's like you're flying in the air. Some people cannot even get on a plane, and you're just hanging out the side of it, and Eric's sitting there with his computer like it's nothing.
Another day
like
at work.
It's literally nothing. So it's the fact that like as it continues on in the actual scene, you can see it register in his eyes that something is not right. And I don't know if that means.
And he keeps asking for more. It's like, yeah, let's go. Having lost GPS before, on more than one occasion. I mean, in manned aviation, where he is the pilot in command and responsible for the souls on board. I mean, you're right. This is no small thing. When you're up there and you lose instrumentation, talk about the right stuff. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad he's my pilot.
Yeah. I tell you what, I've not flown in a helicopter before. I've been in planes, small planes, big planes, but I tell you what, if Cameron was my captain of that aircraft that I'm flying in, I would feel very comfortable knowing that he was at the helm for sure.
Yeah. If he says it's okay to fly, it's okay to fly.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But when like Shannon said, when you see that look of concern on his face like that, it's that would set, a little bit of, but he's in control and he's going to make sure that he's doing everything he can to make it a safe flight. So, but yeah, to lose GPS. And again, you mentioned it, Pete, how many times are you losing GPS on something like this? That's just crazy. Why here? Why is that? Just another shot of Eric doing his thing there. And then of course it's raining, and that's when they saw the flash of flash. And that was obviously it was probably lightning, or at least that's the way I took it. And it's raining. And then, and the guys here's again, that toughness, look at it's been raining all and he's getting wet, but yet he's still, he's got his laptop right there and he's still doing his job, even the fact that he's getting all wet. Yeah. Okay. So at the end, they're bringing in, they're all to do a debrief in the command center. And of course they get, the Attorney General, Sean Reyes, on the screen there so that they can kind of, hear what he had to say. One of the things that he mentioned was that he checked on the destination of the Black Hawk, and it puts the screen, and we'll look at that picture here in just a second of what he found. But basically, he got no answers whatsoever. It was, it was a Black Hawk helicopter, but he didn't get any answers as to what they were doing. Right?
The lack of information is information. I don't know. Tells us something, that he couldn't reveal his source, that he's told it's classified. Like we were talking earlier, who can fly around like that? Military, certain defense contractors, maybe? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. The interesting thing too was the flight pattern that was shown by the data of the GPS tracker that was on that Eric had put on a helicopter, and they were looking at this point where you see the mouse right there, this particular point right here, where Cameron talked about it being a vertical ascent, and he talked about that if he would not do that particular maneuver because of the danger of it, so he wouldn't do that. So, and that wasn't just the weird part. That was just part of the weird part, quite honestly. Another part of the weird part was this right here, where you see this piece go all the way out here, miles off the ranch. And Cameron's like, I did not fly that pattern.
Oh, holy cow. That, from a linear point of view, you know what I'm about to say, Seth? The gap in my laser scan data is on that same bearing.
Oh,
You're right.
Wow.
It moved it in the same direction as it moved your data.
It's just a little farther south, but
Yeah,
it's along the same compass bearing. I mean, just eyeballing it here.
so crazy.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Yeah, I'm just like processing, looking at the pattern.
I know.
Hey,
And
go ahead.
Can
you share an anecdote from like 3 years ago?
Sure.
Because it's a great view. You see how the Mesa is basically like a semicircle or a smiley face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a colleague of mine, this was like my first visit, like I said, maybe 3 years ago. And he was doing some analysis, and he just arbitrarily, like in a CAD or a GIS program, drew a perfect circle and just eyeballed it to follow that geology, the toe of the slope.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey Pete, check this out." And he showed me the properties of the circle, and it was exactly 5,280 feet, which is 1 mile.
1 mile, yeah.
Anyway, coincidence, but I remember these. I see a visual and I go, I remember that.
Yeah. That's very interesting. But and you see it in the track. I mean, it goes way off over here. We don't even know how far off it goes in either direction. But the thing you hear Cameron saying, he goes, I did not fly that pattern.
That he's aware of.
That's right. Yeah. And again, there you go back to that. Did they lose the helicopter for a while? Did it like go into a different dimension for a while?
Right. Is it getting the data from a mirror parallel, version of the helicopter that did fly that route?
Or the ones that
my
show...
particular favorite, what makes GPS work? Time.
Time anomalies.
I think here.
We kind of elaborated on that a little bit last week, and that was another thing. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the time anomalies. I mean, that's something that we observe all the time. It's all the time. Yeah. It's one of the most interesting things to me in terms of like watching the cameras and things, especially when we've had rhythmic time anomalies. Those are especially interesting when you find that there's a rhythm to them and that they last for X amount of minutes.
Could that be communication?
Myself and another insider, Ashley, we that was something that we were looking at. There's so like keeping this like really detailed log, because you wonder, is there a way to feed this into some sort of system to look for it? Because it is very odd. The fact that it's these for a period of time actually I think it was over the summer, which may have been when they were filming. But there are these rhythmic time things, and sometimes they go back to January 1st, 2000 for X amount of times. But it's always around like the Homestead area. It's always those cameras. And I found it to be interesting that it would do it rhythmically. That, I mean, like having glitches in your clocks and things like that doesn't seem especially interesting. But when you're talking about something that like I would show up to check to make sure that it was going to do it, and then it would vary by like a second or two depending on what time of day it was, how long it would last. It was really it's interesting, I think.
Yep.
Anyways, sorry.
Yeah.
If it's
go ahead.
It's a portal and it's like a bus station or an airport, you know, so everything's
There
on
you
time,
go.
but sometimes it's a little late or
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole time thing. And, you know, people have talked about the anomaly, putting in an atomic clock. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Ooh, and Shannon, before I forget, mechanical resonance. Anyway.
Yeah. So, and the last thing that they kind of talked about a little bit in the command center there was this right here, and this was I forget what they called this particular view.
They embossed it. Are you talking about the filter on it? It was an embossing.
Yes, an embossing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you see down there by that mouse pointer, you're seeing this little bad boy right here. Now, when they showed this, I didn't capture this in motion, but when they captured it in motion, that thing was actually moving and following the helicopter. Okay. I didn't capture that for you guys because I didn't take the time to get the video piece, but it was actually moving with the helicopter. So there you see it. There's a little bit of a close-up of it and one a little bit closer. And that's when Travis went over and got a good look at it and said, you know, and here the thing that Brandon pointed out was you see a shiny side and a dark side. And if I go back, you have a shiny side and a dark side to the helicopter. So that's a key point to remember there too. So the shiny side being up here on the top and this side, the front and the top, and the object is also the same way. The top and the front side is shiny and the back side is dark. So it's not something on the ground. It's an actual, I'm going to call it a UAP. I'm going to just reach out and say it is. That's what it is. I don't know, because we don't know what this thing is. But it looks a lot like the one that Travis, they picked up, they saw 2 weeks ago. So, it's like I said in the intro. Why is this place a place where so many UAP, UFO, whatever you want to call it, are spotted? Why? Why here? Is it because they're doing these experiments? Is it because there's something there that they're utilizing? We know that they're real. We've already had the government say, yeah, they're real. We don't know what they are. But why here? And we're capturing them over and over and over again here. And we're seeing pictures of them. So, and you heard the Attorney General say, what is that thing flying in our airspace, my airspace? And now he's got to be concerned about that, because he's in charge of the, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, that's his realm. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Why here? I mean, there goes that drinking game question. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could have all of your episodes just on this topic alone. Why here?
Yeah.
Isn't that ultimately, that is the secret of Skinwalker Ranch? Once we figure out why here, then I think we have the answer.
Yeah. This is that path that the Black Hawk took that didn't have the transponder on. Craig. Thank you, Craig. Very kind of you, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is that area. This is the flight path that it took right here. So interesting that it took off and made its way around right across the ranch and then back
to the Salt Lake area.
to the Salt Lake area. Yep.
And there's some interesting
That's
places
the ranch area there, and there's where it went back.
So just a little farther west is the Dugway Proving Grounds. That is a military installation where they do like chemical lab stuff. Listen to my scientific jargon, but yeah, that stood out to me right away.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard about that place and some conspiracy conversation.
Well, and as I think we were chatting about this on the Insiders via text, but NOTAMs are public. Okay. So any interested party could set up some kind of a query that says, show me, email me when any NOTAM is created for the airspace around, Roosevelt/Vernal, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you see the NOTAM and you go, launching rockets up to 12,000 feet. That's an interesting NOTAM. Guys, let's have a Black Hawk, hot and ready to go. You feel me? It's if anybody's paying attention, I mean, NOTAMs are public.
Yeah.
And hey, insider, you too can pay attention to NOTAM, and you will know whenever something interesting, because you can see who filed the NOTAM, location, et cetera, et cetera. So if you weren't aware, that can be a great data point.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. And Pete, you mentioned recently something that I think is going to be really interesting is that they're going to have drones now are going to have to basically register and give off, and we'd be able to track them like flights, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
it's the ability to track them.
It's a big deal. It's a federal law. It goes into effect September 16th, where all drones have to transpond like commercial aircraft do, because the airspace is getting really crowded with tens of millions of drones out there, and pilots like Cameron are going, anyway, this is the result. So on the ADSB, on the myriad of apps you can have on your phone, you'll be able to see people flying drones.
Cool.
So as a professional drone pilot, I like it. Some people don't.
I think it's good.
I sure do, because it keeps the airspace safe. But it'll also be yet another really interesting data point to have around the property as to who's who in the zoo and et cetera. So.
Yeah.
Who's who in the zoo?
Yep.
I like that.
I know, right? So anyway, so that's our wrap of this particular episode. It was a great one, I think, and they're going to get better as we go along. I can just tell. Next week we're going to be drilling into the Mesa, which is what they did. They moved all the rocks. They made a nice little spot. Now they're going to be drilling into the Mesa. We're going to see a little bit more about that. So yeah. So let's at this portion. I know I went long. I'm sorry. I did. I tried very hard to make it 45 minutes. I did go long, but let's jump over and do a little bit of 101 with Mr. Pete Kelsey talking about what are we going to do first? We're going to do LiDAR or?
I thought I'd start with photogrammetry.
Okay, let's do that. All right.
And this will be short and sweet because I respect for the audience, right? So let me share my screen.
All right. I love this because this is the part where I get to be a student. That's what I kind of do that with this show as it is anyway. It's kind of my way of doing research by bringing experts and great co-hosts and people that have great ideas, and all of the people in the chat who have great ideas and great questions. All of our insiders, we know the mind. I've talked about this before, but the brain power of the insiders not including me, but the brain power of the insiders is phenomenal. It really, truly is. And I learn stuff all the time. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's a collective.
It is. It truly is a collective. Yeah. All right.
So photogrammetry, it's actually been around for about 30 years. What the heck is it? It's my favorite one-liner. It is a technology which enables anyone with any camera to be able to take a series of photos of any physical thing, and the photogrammetry software will then stitch all those photos together and make a really rich three-dimensional model like one you see here.
Are they always made with drones? I'm sorry if that's a dumb question.
No, any camera. So I've done a ton with my phone.
Wow.
The better the camera sensor, the better the fidelity in the model. Again, all cameras have a megapixel rating, right? The sensor in the camera.
Mm-hmm.
The higher that megapixel rating, the more fidelity, accuracy, precision you're going to get in these models. Now, if you zoom in tight, the term I've always used is sort of melted butter.
Mm-hmm.
You see how these edges are sort of floppy, and that's very common in the trees. And this is a symptom of both, a characteristic of both photogrammetry and LiDAR. Both sensors hate motion. So wind in the trees, they're going to blur like this.
Oh, yeah.
If anything is moving, and the term some may have heard before is ghosting.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody walks through my scan, you'll see a ghost of this person walking through my scan, or a car drives through my scan. Basically anything in motion is typically, it's a problem. It's something that you have to clean up, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. But so for the sake of this, photogrammetry is photo-based, right? It's visual. It's RGB light, red, green, blue. It's just the camera. What the camera sees, it's going to model. And one other bit that I think is kind of important is the software looks at every pixel in every picture. And that's why the software is so intense on workstations, laptops, because it's an extraordinary amount of information. So if you're looking at every pixel in every image, and like for the ranch, the last time we flew the entire property was 32,000 images.
Wow.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, how many images do you generally need to take to make something like this?
Yeah, it varies
Thousands.
wildly. It could be 100. It could be 10,000. And obviously, as the number goes up, the more demands on the computing horsepower, and most of it is done in the cloud, because the computing power required pretty much requires the cloud. But there is a local option. If you have the right laptop, you can process. The other thing it really relies on in terms of being able to get a good result is overlap and side lap. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing on my hands. Overlap, photo to photo, and then side lap, photo to photo. Because if you're going to look at every pixel and look for patterns, look for the same thing more than once, you have to have that overlap and side lap.
Okay.
And the more overlap and side lap you have, the better results you're going to get.
I see. Okay.
What causes the melted butter look on something like the buildings that aren't moving? Is that your movement?
That's a lot of things. That is
the overlap kind of.
Yeah, it could be. I didn't used the right overlap and side lap setting. It could have been the light changing, because you can tell this is late. This is late in the day. You see how the shadows are long?
Okay.
Photogrammetry is best done. The best results come from an overcast sky when there are no shadows.
Interesting.
Shadows were severe on this one. So one side of the building is really well lit, the other side is in shadow. That can cause these edges to go wonky, melted
Okay.
butter.
Thank you.
But there are a lot of other reasons, and I don't want to bore people with them. There are the term for a camera that is fixed and looks straight down, if it's a drone-based photogrammetry mission, those photos are called nadir photos, Nadir, nadir photos. Photos that are taken obliquely are called oblique photos. So nadir photos have a lot of trouble with building facades, these vertical faces,
Right.
of which there are thousands, for example, on the Mesa, right?
Yep.
Every rock has a different face, facet, etc. So making sure we fly both nadir and oblique is really, really important. So I kind of want to leave photogrammetry there. Just the only other bit is, if you look here on my options as to what I want to see, the software can generate a 3D textured mesh. That's what you're looking at. This is actually a solid model. You know, if I turned off the colors, you would just see an interwoven mesh of solid facets and millions of them, okay? Where it gets a little confusing for those new to photogrammetry and LiDAR is there's a very common term on the LiDAR side, which is point cloud. LiDAR, the deliverable, the data that LiDAR generates is referred to as a point cloud. Well, what's cool about photogrammetry software is it can generate point clouds.
Oh, wow.
From the photogrammetric data. Can you see how much sharper that is?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Wow.
Less motion in the trees. Anyway, I'm hesitant to even mention it because people go, wait a minute, point clouds, LiDAR photogrammetry, it's actually an option in both. So the reason I bring this up is the column of data that we got in the East Field, that is still one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. That you're looking at, that anomaly is a point cloud generated from a photogrammetric drone-based survey. Clear as mud?
So maybe I hope that I'm understanding correctly. That strange thing that appears in your data, that came from this type of
Yes, that was a
data collection.
That was a photogrammetry survey.
So then when you look at the individual images that you took to make that data, is it also missing in those as well? Or is it only when it's put in the program to make the rendering like this that it disappears or shows that weird thing?
And that is where we have to rely on Eric and the incredible Zydax machine, the workstation that he has there at the command center, to be able to look at that particular data point. I hate that probably sounds like a cop-out, but
no, it doesn't. I'm it's curious to think if like maybe some of them has information in it and other ones don't. So when they're like laid together in the way that you're describing, if that's why it happens, or
Yep.
I don't know. It's interesting to
Well,
think about.
and I'll lean into that a little bit, Shannon. So every photo that's taken, well, for images used in photogrammetry that are geotagged, another
Mhm.
$60 word, that just means they have a lat long elevation attached to them. That requires a GPS, right?
Okay.
My
Oh, yeah.
favorite thing in the wide world.
GPS, yeah.
That's G P. It's just anyway. GPS
Okay.
is that's my white whale. And the photos in that survey with the columnar anomaly are all geotagged.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Which is where we've been having the same types of issues, right? Just in
Yeah.
different ways. The GPS.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Very
So
interesting.
So
That's
now,
really interesting.
and right, if you do a photogrammetry model of anything with your phone, if you're outside, your phone knows where it is if you have those settings enabled, right?
Mhm.
So those images will be geotagged. Okay. So anyway, so endeth the very brief lesson on photogrammetry because we've got to move on.
Well, no, I mean, we can take as much time as you like, really. I do want to do, before we go to LiDAR, when you're wrapped up here, we have a giveaway. I completely forgot about it, folks, and I apologize. We do
Let
have
it go, Jeff. Now's a great time.
Okay. All right. So we do have a giveaway we're going to do tonight. And we should have done it a while ago. And I was all caught up with everything and I completely forgot. I'll show a quick picture of it. And then we're going to bring up Linda and she is going to do the spin. Here is the giveaway tonight. And it looks like how big is this? Do you have any idea, Linda? Well, she'll tell us in a minute when she comes up, but it's really cool. I love this thing. It's like a coaster, like a leather coaster, I guess. But really cool. So we're going to give that away tonight. Let me get back to this screen. There's Linda. Now, to be eligible for this, you have to be part of our Facebook group, which is the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. It's our Facebook group, and Linda will put out a post in there showing what the giveaway is going to be. And all you have to do is comment in that post with a yes, and you will be entered into the giveaway drawing, and she will do a spin. Again, you have to be part of the Facebook group to be eligible for it, and you have to be present here tonight to actually get it. If you're not here, then we do another spin. So with all that said, sorry, Linda, go ahead.
It's okay. These are cute little coasters that a gal who has an Etsy shop made. They're about 3x3, sort of standard coaster size. Yeah, I thought they were adorable.
Yeah, they're really cool. I
They're
said I
just
want to get a
fun.
chance to win these. I'm not eligible. I'm not allowed.
Well, you could.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd have to be incognito or something.
Right. I have to use a different name or something. But yeah, all right.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
All right. Kat Fulton. All right. Kat's going to get that. All right. Very cool.
She is here. I saw her.
And yep, she is.
Yep,
So
Kat's been here all evening. So
made me laugh a couple times.
yes, yeah, she's always good for a quick.
Kat does. She's a very happy insider. Okay,
Yep.
I will get these sent out to Pat and carry on.
Thanks, Linda.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah.
Linda.
You're welcome.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. I completely forgot. Yes, way, Kat. Yes, way. You got it. Like I said, just get together with Linda there, and she'll get your address and all that, and get those on the way. So very cool. All right, let me remove that, and we'll get back to. Let's see here. Are you ready with your next one, Pete?
I sure am.
All right, here we go. All right.
Excuse me. Okay, jumping over to LiDAR.
All right.
This is so cool.
It truly is. And I'm glad you're explaining this, because it's always one of those things when we see, especially when we see an anomaly, like Shannon already mentioned, that area of the Mesa that was missing, and yet it showed up it showed up way far away from it. Yeah, it just took the pictures. And again, the anomaly standing up over the tower, I guess we'll call it, or whatever. But yeah, just truly amazing how it does that. Go ahead, sir.
So this, I know I can share this because this is the data, the first data that Brandon shared via a tweet, 2 weeks ago now, something like that?
Yep.
And I thought I would use it. I mean, what a perfect example to talk about LiDAR, and to also give folks who have access to this, which is basically the planet now, a bit of how to use some of the functions here in the menu. So, all right, LiDAR is, so we talked about photogrammetry being visual. It's camera based. It's all based on red, green, and blue spectrum. It's a camera. It's all based on photos. LiDAR stands for light, distance, and ranging. So it is laser based. LiDAR is, because it's laser based, it is extremely accurate. There are a number of different kinds of LiDAR, and I've used a number of them on the ranch. There is terrestrial laser scanners. This is a LiDAR unit that sits on a tripod and does not move. It is because it doesn't move, it tends to have the longest range, the most accuracy, precision. I mean, if I want to get something really, really good, we use the terrestrial laser scanner. But understand that TLS, terrestrial laser scanning, is just another form of LiDAR. It's laser-based technology that generates what you see here, which is the point cloud, or a point cloud. There are georeferenced point clouds and non-georeferenced point clouds. As the name suggests, like this one here, this is georeferenced because this was drone-based. You can see the green lines up there are the lawnmower pattern, if you will, that my drone flew to capture this data. So in a moment, you'll even be able to figure out, well, what altitude, Pete, did you fly this scan at? Do a measurement from there to there, and it will tell you. And those are over here in these tools. We'll get to that. But the point is that this is georeferenced data. The data I get from the ground with the terrestrial laser scanner is not. And it's just because TLS typically on board doesn't have a GPS receiver that can be used to georeference the data. This can be done in a million different ways that I won't get into. It has to do with setting targets out in the field of view of the scanner, surveying in those targets and getting a lat long elevation, an XYZ coordinate, and then plugging those in the post-processing. So it can be done, but I have never done any georeferenced terrestrial laser scanning on the ranch. Now, the smart person might say, well, wait a minute, how did you overlay that image that we saw with a gap in my terrestrial laser scanning data pointing at the drill site How did you make that work? That's a technique called rubber sheeting, where I take the image of the point cloud in plan view. Plan view just means we're looking straight down at it like that. And Google Earth is so cool. You can take any image and rubber sheet it, meaning this rock in my image is this rock in Google Earth. And you rotate, you scale, you rubber sheet, you stretch to make the image fit. Now, will it ever be, millimeter accurate? Of course not. But at the scale we were talking about, for where I overlay that image and see that gap, it's perfect.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it would make sense to want to try to do something that wasn't geo or didn't have the geotag on it when you're having issues with
GPS.
things having the GPS, the images. So it seems like that would be a beneficial thing to do. That's what I would do, and I have no experience in any of this. That I'd want to do that.
Right.
Pete, sorry.
Yes,
is it a constant laser, or is it like bounce a laser back? I'm sorry if that's a
great
dumb
question. Great question. So, I'm trying to be respectful of folks' time.
Oh, you're fine, please.
So, my laser scanner from the ground, my TLS, terrestrial laser scanner, shoots, get your head around this, 2 million points per second.
Wow.
What?
Yeah. And how it does it is, I actually have it behind me.
Magic. It does it through magic. That's my own.
Yeah,
Can I
technical
get it out of the case?
Yeah, magic.
2 million per second.
That's nuts.
I can't even. I can't wrap my head.
You can't process that.
I can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah, I think because there's nothing to compare it to at all.
Oh, there it is. Yes, I saw that set up on the ranch.
Wow.
That's
Pardon
crazy.
me, I got excited. My nose started running.
Everybody wants you to keep on going. Don't worry about our time. Take your time.
So this is a terrestrial laser scanner by Faro. This is a Faro. For those of you who want to dig into it, this is a Faro Focus S, as in Sierra, 350. I usually refer to this as my S350. This thing goes wherever I go because it is so accurate and so precise. So how does it work? It sits on a tripod and the whole unit rotates. There's a motor inside it and it rotates. At the same time, this mirror here spins. And it spins really fast. And there's a laser on this side, if I can position this right, shoots out of there, hits that at a 45 and goes out. But because the mirror rotates and the whole thing is rotating, it basically captures data in a half sphere out to 350 meters, thus its name, the S350.
Oh.
So at 2 million times per second, it's gathering point cloud data like you see here in every direction, 360 degrees by basically 180 degrees. It's half sphere.
Wow.
Okay. Okay, that's the TLF.
Holy cow.
Let me put it away because
yeah. I can't even imagine what something like that costs. Don't go there, but I'm just thinking.
I won't.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, now that is not the LiDAR scanner I fly from a drone. It's too heavy and it's a TLS unit, meaning it's a static system. It sits, it doesn't move, right?
Mm-hmm.
The LiDAR scanner, I actually have two of them that I use all the time and many times on the ranch. One is It's called the Hover Map, and it's by a company called Emerson out of Australia. And it is, forgive me, a SLAM, SLAM, Sierra Lima Alpha Mike, a SLAM-based laser scanner. SLAM stands for simultaneous localization and mapping. All that means is the hover map is mobile. Can walk with it, can hang it from a drone and fly with it. You remember way back when Eric took it into Homestead 2 and walked around with it. And
somebody just asked that question if that was what you used, the SLAM scanner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that what you had in the helicopter?
And very good. That is, I had the hover map with me, strapped to me because I didn't want to drop that from 5,000 feet. Yes, that's the hover map. So the hover map, 300,000 points per second and a range of 100 meters.
Wow.
So how this works, and it actually makes sense well to a nerd like me. A static system that sits on a tripod takes longer, but you get a really high level of precision. Whereas a SLAM scanner is mobile, so you trade accuracy, precision for speed. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Yeah.
Let's see. The scanner, and then there's the third one. The scanner that I flew this one with, and Kaleb was with me, so I will say we, that Kaleb and I did, this one is, I'll refer to it as GNSS LiDAR, which just means that unlike a SLAM-based scanner, this scanner requires an RTK GPS antenna at a fixed location on the ground so it can georeference the data.
Okay.
So far, so good?
Yep.
Now the hover map, when it's hanging from the drone, will take the drone's RTK GPS and geotag the data that way.
Okay.
When I'm walking with it, or Eric's walking with it, when it's not attached to the drone, there's no geotagging because there's no RTK antenna.
Right.
Okay? Let's switch to this data. So for those of you who have seen this and you see this, it says generic. See that right there? If I zoomed in really tight on this, by the way, all I just did was double left click on the data for those of you who want to learn a bit about how to navigate through this. There's my truck. Kaleb and I are sitting right there. And you can see the tripod. You can sort of see
right there.
There's the mast. And my RTK GPS antenna is right there.
Wow.
And it's cooking the whole time before, during, and after the flight and gathering data from the satellite and tagging this data so it is really accurate in terms of being where it should be on the ground.
Right. Wow.
Now, a great way to give that a visual is here, for those of you who have access to this data, this button right here, this white button, a lot of cool options right here. My particular favorite is terrain. You just have to wait on the internet to catch up.
And this was possible because of your geo-referencing?
Exactly, Seth, exactly. So you see how it falls on the ground, not kind of where it's supposed to be, but exactly where it's supposed to be.
Wow.
So the difference between like a hover map scan and the scan using this scanner is accuracy, precision. And what we were looking for on this scan was to compare it to the photogrammetric scan with the columnar, the tower anomaly in it.
Right.
And I wanted it to be as precise as we could. So I use this particular scanner.
Wow.
So is it pulling off of for the surrounding area? Is that coming from like Google Earth, or do you have it in your?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Basically, publicly available geospatial data.
got it.
And you could plug this into GIS as well.
Yes.
Cool.
That is very cool.
And of course, you know where you are. You know, the HQ is right there. There's the Mesa. We're over here in the East Field. It gives you, it's why I've always loved working in this particular technology, because I can bore the hell out of people with this techno babble. But as soon as you show people the data, it's instant context, right? It's, oh, I know where I am. I get it. I see where I am. So from there, and there are other options. Default is nothing, and you can play with the colors. You know, I want it black, I want it white. All of that is, we'll get into a little bit. If you just want a flat satellite image, you know, that'll come up. It's all based on your Wi-Fi speed. I'm going to leave it blank because I want to show you a few things. The red dot is only because I double left clicked, and that changes the point where you orbit from. So I'm orbiting from that point. If I pick somewhere else, I get a new red dot, it zooms into me or zooms into that point, and I can rotate orbit from there. And to me, this is, I mean, yet another hat tip to Brandon. I mean, welcome to Skinwalker Ranch, at least as close as he can let, as much access as he can give at this point.
Yep.
So if you want to know what it looks like standing right there, that's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I want to put this on VR goggles.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And navigate through it that way.
Oh, that would be cool.
When this first showed up, sorry, go ahead.
I'm happy to report you can do that.
Ooh.
Oh.
And I have a pair of them too.
All right.
That would be cool.
Pete, kind of like that I don't want to call it pixelation because it's finer than that, but is like these little dots of light. Each one of that is like one of those laser reference.
Yes. So getting back to LiDAR, thank you, Seth, for keeping me on point.
It's fascinating.
In this case, the 300,000 points per second, you're seeing a bit of that. You're seeing a bit of those 300,000 points per second that are obviously colorized by the camera that the sensor has in it. That's how it can get these RGB color values. If you want to see more, because this is just a fraction, right? Because it's a website, it's streaming over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That setting is here, these three horizontal lines. And this can be a little overwhelming in terms of what's available here. There's a lot.
When it first
Sorry, Shannon?
I was just going to say, when it first showed up on Twitter, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just clicking everything, and I made a mess of it. And then I was just like, I'll eventually learn this, because you don't know what to touch. You know, you're like, I guess if I click a couple of things, I'll figure it out. But
well, and thank you, Jeff, for having this idea of, well, you know, what if we took people through this? It makes such perfect sense, because to be an insider, you want to be empowered to be able to review the first data ever revealed. So we thought it would be a great idea to sort of take you through what's possible here.
It's interesting. Am I seeing the lines, those lines that are running on the ground? That's a mirror of your drone path?
Another good question.
Or
that's
physical
just
features?
Wi-Fi, internet streaming.
Okay.
You'll see that change in just a minute. So I picked these three horizontal lines. This brings up this elaborate menu. If you're watching this and don't remember a word I said, this video right here is a hot link to a YouTube video which will teach you how to use all of this stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, what if I want to see more of those 300,000 points per second that were captured? It's the very first option up here. It's called point budget. Now, I'll caution you, you will, as you move this slider bar, two things are going to happen. You're going to see what kind of Wi-Fi service you have, and you're going to see what kind of laptop, smartphone, tablet you have. And by the way, this is not, it will work on a phone, but I don't recommend it. It will lead to creative profanity strings and etc. So best done either on a tablet or a laptop with as fast an internet as you can find. So cut to the chase. If you just move the point budget, you see more points come in.
Wow. Look at that.
And you'll see the progress bar down here as they're coming in. This will tell you about your Wi-Fi speed.
Wow.
And it'll also be completely relevant to how many thousands of insiders are out there hitting this same server at the same time.
Oh yeah, true. Huh?
But it will go all, for me with my Wi-Fi and my laptop, basically about as high as I dare go is about 8.
Wow.
But I hear the fan come on. You probably do too. I mean, just be gentle with your equipment because this is an extraordinary amount of data.
Wow.
Yeah, someone made the point, is this why it takes so long to pull the data and compile? I think we're seeing, just why that is a Herculean task.
What a great point. I mean, whoever mentioned that, that is such an important observation. So when you fly 512 acres and have this kind of data, and why is it taking so long to go through it all? You are absolutely right.
Sorry.
It's huge in terms of the size of the data, the amount of data we've collected.
Within your career or dealing with this, have you seen that data processing time speed up? Do we anticipate that getting just faster and faster as things progress?
Well, yeah, the biggest difference was the cloud, also known as infinite computing, right? Put it out there in the cloud, and that, kudos to Phoenix LiDAR here, because they're like, this is, so by the way, when I fly LiDAR as a service to my clients, whether it's Brandon or anyone else, this is the URL I can provide to the client and say, look, here's what we did. Here's what it looks like. But it's just a viewer. I mean, access to the actual data, that takes permission from Brandon, et cetera, et cetera. But this is, if you have the hardware and can take your point budget way up, go for it, or just wait. Set it to 10. Set a view you like that you really want to, take a close look at. Set it to 10. Go have a cup of coffee. Come back, and it'll be there.
Wow.
Okay. The other one that's super cool in terms of visualization is eye dome lighting. It's the next item down here. Default settings work great. If you just turn on enable, it basically gives the edges of everything a bit of shading.
That embossing that we saw with the UAP and the helicopter kind of.
Yeah, very similar.
Oh, yeah.
Very similar. So it makes it a little more photorealistic, if you will. Easy to interpret, so on and so forth. All right, what else? I won't go through all these tools, but if you wanted to know what's the distance from there to the altitude where we flew, that's right there. That's just a point-to-point distance measurement. And it'll show up somewhere here in the menu. It'll pop up. Okay. So if you want to know how big is that rock? How wide is the canal? What's the distance from X to Y? You can do all those measurements using these tools.
Wow.
So please do so if you want to dig in
Wow.
and do some heartfelt analysis. What else? A bunch of different ways to orbit. You know, there's helicopter and flying, a bunch of different ways. If you get bored with or don't want to see, let me start again. What about ways of manipulating the point cloud? There's a couple of ways. If you get into the classification filter right here, there's created, never classified. Turn that off and the drone path goes away.
Oh, okay.
Because those are unclassified points.
Right.
That just clears things up, makes things a little easier to look at, view, understand. Any unclassified points, that's just, it's an algorithm within the software. Hey, we're not sure if it's the ground, if it's a tree. So they just throw it into this unclassified bucket. You could change the color of the unclassified points to anything you want. Ground points, you can turn those on or off. This is great when we get into terrain modeling, contour lines, 3D solids, virtual reality. I mean, all kinds of interesting things.
Is that where you want to take, like, I've seen on some videos where they take like and fly over the Amazon forest, but they want to see what's under the canopy of trees. Is that
Yeah.
okay? And
That's,
see that buildings and stuff.
This,
Okay.
This is great, Jeff. You were spot on. There are ways within the algorithm to strip away the trees. I just want to see the ground.
Yep.
And you're right. It got an incredible amount of media attention in the news. In the Yucatan, they stripped away the jungle, and there are cities and highways of the Mayan Empire that no one has ever seen before.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
There was a temple they found right next to archaeological sites that they said, "What? It was so dense, they had no idea."
They had no idea it was there. Yeah.
It's
Why?
Fascinating. Go ahead.
Why does it not pick up any like birds and things? I know that's it's such a simple, dumb question, but I'm just curious if it's sitting there.
Well,
why are you not picking up animals or?
It's not a dumb question. If there were birds in the air, you'd see them ghosting.
Oh, okay.
There would be bird as it flew through the scan. You would see that. I've used LiDAR underwater and can see fish in the point cloud.
Wow.
So there just happens to be no birds then? There just happened to be nothing going on when you were doing this?
Between the scanner and the ground, I would say correct. Yep.
That seems weird.
But if there were critters on the ground, coyotes, dogs, something unknown, and they were in motion, or even if they weren't, the laser would get returns from whatever it sees.
Are you able to single out ghosting rather than like needing to catch it with your naked eye? You could actually just
not with this particular viewer, but there are ways. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Somebody asked the question, what wavelength does your LiDAR use?
Oh my gosh.
I don't even, I haven't.
Eric, where are you? Yeah, I apologize. I actually don't know. All I know is it's a class 1 laser. It means it's eye safe, which means you can look at it and it's not going to fry your retinas.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I would have to dig into some manuals, and I don't know that off the top of my head. Let's see, just one other bit, and then I've got to let this go. Where is it?
Folks, there will be a test too, coming up in a couple weeks. So
yeah,
I hope you took your notes like I did.
Yeah.
So under materials, you can play with the point size. Why are the pixels of points a certain size? You can play with that there. Is the point size fixed or relative to how you're zoomed in or out? But in terms of analysis, you see this stuff over here? my fellow insiders, elevation weight.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
From low to high elevation, topographically.
Oh, wow. That's
So
awesome.
the red stuff is high, the blue is low. You can play with that. How the points have been classified. You can play with that. I won't bore you with what all these things mean. We talked about time and GPS. See this one right here?
I was going to ask, what's GPS time? Whoa.
All kinds of interesting, and I highly encourage anyone interested to just tear into these. If they're not self-evident by their name, check out this video, because people a whole lot smarter than I am from Phoenix LiDAR will take you through what all of this means. Or you just do a simple Google or chat GPT search, or my new favorite, Bard.
You almost wonder if it was named for him. It should have been.
So anyway, that I should leave it there. But hopefully some folks out there are going, whoa, cool, I got something to do tonight or this weekend. And
yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, this is truly interesting.
There you have it. A bit of LiDAR, a bit of photogrammetry. Hopefully that connects some dots for folks out there.
Oh, absolutely. And it's amazing how, you put all this together, and yet, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, when you've done so much work with this equipment all over the place, you've been all around the world doing the work with this equipment, and here we go back to Skinwalker Ranch. The things that you've seen at Skinwalker Ranch, the weirdness, the high strangeness that has happened to your equipment, have you seen any of the like anywhere else?
No.
I know, I knew it.
And I want to say, and this isn't, you don't, for your career, it's not like you seek out places that have unusual activity. You're traveling and doing things that are not unusual, right? Like, you're not a ghost hunter. That's not to disparage any ghost hunters, but like, that's not your thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. And what happened to Jan and all the other third-party folks who come on the ranch, myself included, we're all thinking the same thing. I've taken this gig and risking reputation, this is how I make my living.
Right.
How are my clients, to your point, how are my clients going to react to me out, chasing whatever it is we're chasing? So yeah, I was chatting with Jeff. I was just in Maine for 2 weeks doing a really important survey using LiDAR of the coastline of Maine, having to do with a state-funded, full-blown scientific analysis of sea level change and at-risk infrastructure there along the coast. So yeah, I do this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Jan does what he does for a living. The drone swarm guys, same thing. And we all just go into the great unknown we go. And
I think sorry. I was just going to say, I think that's often missed. I think that people don't, as they're consuming the show or trying to be skeptical of the stuff that they're seeing, I don't think that people realize that, like, you guys are legitimate experts in your field. Absolutely. This isn't your show. Like, you're coming, well, it feels like it now, but this, you're being invited out to do an investigation, but like, this isn't how you make your living. You do it investigating things that are not paranormal. So the fact that you're being exposed to something that is, and are able to identify it with the same sort of equipment that you use for all of these other projects or all of these other normal investigations, I think says a lot. I wish that people would take a step back and realize that this isn't like You don't just go hunting like spooky stuff. Not that, again, there's nothing wrong with that at all. If that's somebody's thing, I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong
Right.
with that. But I think when we're talking about this show specifically, I think people forget that you guys have careers that are outside of it entirely, doing this specific job.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Thank you, Shannon. Yeah, it's one part of my selfish interest is just trying to understand, and I know Jan feels this way, and I'll guarantee you that the Sky Elements guys are going through the same thing, is forensically trying to explain what just happened. Because what if that happened, in front of a typical client, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
So yeah, I just appreciate you calling that out very much.
Yeah, the Sky Element drone show. I mean, when I was looking at their shows, they were doing it at stadiums with tens of thousands of people. They're not. These aren't things that operate or wobble like that. It's high strangeness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Brandon was very adamant about that. If you remember on one of the insider Q&As when he was talking about that, he said, do you think for a minute that these people are going to want to come out here and be on national television and have something go wrong with their equipment or their presentation or their research that they're doing? Heck no. I mean,
Right.
they're not going to want to. And as Pete, and as you just kind of said, clients are going to see that and go, oh, well, I'm not going to hire them because they're faulty equipment. They don't know what they're doing, but yet you get skinwalkered and, oh,
And in getting skinwalkered, wanting to understand that risk.
Yep.
And trying to understand, what just happened, because I do this for a living. Right. Anyway, I'm belaboring the point. We'll probably talk more about this at Phenomicon, because like I talked about ghosting, and I told the producers, it's like, put me out in the woods and we'll let the scanner run. And if anything moves through the scan, it's going to ghost and we'll see it.
And we did.
Yeah. I mean,
does that make me a lunatic? No. It means, hey, ghosting is normally something I hate, because it means a lot of data cleanup in the post-processing. But I thought, hey, if anything's moving out there, we'll get some returns. So
yeah.
Thanks for your patience.
And we saw, that was on Expedition Bigfoot, and we saw your what's the word I'm trying to use for the right word? The way that you were affected by what you picked up on that scan.
Yeah, seemed like it spooked you a little bit, Pete.
Yes.
I won't describe that phase about a certain relative in the shower, but
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I remember you pulled that out and you were in the back of the vehicle and you're thinking,
Yeah.
wait, what? There was no it was that for me. I blame Jeff and Mike for getting me hooked on Bigfoot.
Wait, what is this on it?
Is this on Expedition?
Bigfoot, yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. I keep saying I'm going to, and I haven't.
Pete's episode was one, I think, other than like the Patterson Gimlin film that I've come around on. I think Pete's ghosting was like, for me, a huge turning point.
Yeah. And it was so clear in that you could see that, like he mentioned, when an animal or something like a bird, you said, would move through this area of scan, you saw a figure that I swear looked like a humanoid figure ghosting across in front of his scanning.
I'm going to have a lot of questions after this, because
there was no person there. There was no one there.
Hey, Shannon, so do I.
There's a good question. Does extreme heat or cold affect it? Your drone?
Yeah, mostly from a battery perspective. Batteries don't like extreme temps. So if you're putting a very expensive LiDAR sensor in the air and the temps are crazy one way or the other, you're going to lose a lot of battery time, and you have to pay very close attention to that.
Oh, I bet.
But probably the question was more about what can it affect the data? Not really. The other cool thing about LiDAR, this came up within the last couple of days, Can LiDAR work at night? Yes. You
Yeah, I
just
guess it
don't
wouldn't
get,
matter, would it?
yeah, you just don't get the color. You don't get the RGB return.
Yeah.
It's just a point cloud without any color, which is what we did where that data gap is in the same area pointing towards the drill site. That's why it's monochromatic. There's no color. Because that was in the middle of the night.
Yep. Wow. There was a question asked of one of the viewers that asked, we've seen you on 4 episodes now. Are you officially part of the team now, or are you as opposed to a third party?
No.
No?
I am happily Sideshow Bob. I am.
No way.
I am.
Mm-mm.
As long as the invitations come, I will accept, because just like everybody else, there are questions that I would like to get some answers to.
For sure, yeah.
And just like everybody else, the more attempts we make at answering questions, the more questions result. And then we drink.
I have one more question. I'm sorry because I
No,
know we're
please.
going so long, but the equipment that you use on the ranch that gave you that kind of gap and data and all that stuff, you then use that same equipment, correct, to move on to your next project, and then you don't have issues with it? Like, it isn't something, like, it's not breaking your equipment from the inside, it's just giving you messed up results, I guess.
Thank you.
Or I guess.
Thank you, whoever, or Shannon, for the scientific clarification in terms of control. No, the gear works fine everywhere else.
Okay.
Thus the term skinwalkered. I've been skinwalkered in one place. And I've been doing this since 2006 professionally.
Wow.
Wow. And like Shannon said too, not only is it affecting you there, but it's not breaking the equipment in any way.
Right.
Okay. So that's, wow.
Thank God the drones that I've lost there weren't the payload wasn't a very expensive sensor.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Seth, did you have one more question? It looked like you had a comment.
Oh, I have 100 more questions.
Right?
No, I should just thank you, Pete, for your time. You're awesome, not just here, but on the Insiders as well. It's
I mean, I'll be hanging there. I'm become a bit of a lurker, as Shannon said. So happy to answer questions that I can, and freely admit when I have no idea as to an answer.
Yeah. It looks like one last question here. It said, Pete, have you done LiDAR archaeology sites, maybe Honduras or any kind of lost city or anything like that? You're allowed to talk about?
Yes, but yes, I have. I can't go into it yet.
To be continued?
No, so I've been waiting over a year to talk about.
Oh, wow.
But super cool, Central America, unbelievable archaeology.
Oh, there you go, right there. Yes, Ron, check that out. Watch 6 episodes on the Smithsonian channel of work that Pete did about World War II. It was all over the world. Fascinating stuff. Yes, I have seen some of that. It is very fascinating.
Oh, I really want to watch that.
I want to watch that too.
Good stuff.
Can I give a shameless plug?
Please.
It's the National Geographic Channel, and it's called Buried Secrets of World War II.
I'm excited.
Yes, go check it out, people. I've seen some of it. I haven't watched all 6, but it is awesome.
Do you have any other shows floating around out there? So you've been on Expedition Bigfoot, Skinwalker Ranch. You've been on the Nat Geo. So what else? What else you got floating around out there?
The Drain the Oceans I did just aired.
Oh, really?
A month or so ago.
Drain the Oceans. Oh, I got to write
That's a cool show.
It is a cool show.
I love Drain the Oceans.
That's it's called the Beeswax Wreck, which is the origin story for the Spanish galleon in the movie The Goonies.
I remember seeing that on Twitter when you put that out there. I love all the Drain the Ocean. I grew up on the water in Charleston, so there's
Oh.
so much history there. Like I remember when they raised the Hunley and all that. So I think it's really, really exciting stuff.
Do
I
you
love
know
the
what
Drain
was
the
the
Ocean
name of
stuff.
that? What was the name of that episode on Drain the Oceans?
Oh gosh, something
remember?
about the mystery of a pirate ship. You'd think I'd remember, but
Okay, I can find it from that.
Yeah,
yeah.
We'll share it amongst ourselves whenever
Yeah, and
one
then
of us finds it.
yeah, we'll definitely put it out on our Facebook group page when I find it. I'll link it so everybody can watch, because that,
Thank you.
this
Thank
is
you.
something that is truly, truly fascinating to me. You get involved, folks, in this new technology that's coming out, and as Pete said, you've been doing this since 2006. You said, and over that time frame, you've watched the technology change and get better and better and better. And as that happens, they would almost want to refer to you and ask somebody like yourself, about ideas for the future, where to go with it next. I think because of your expertise with this, but I mean, it's only going to get better and better. And what you're doing and the type of equipment that you have and the software to be able to process it all is only going to get better and better as we go forward. I mean, I can't imagine the change you've seen already in that many years. It has to be mind blowing for yourself, even.
It is. It's keeping up with it all is
and buying it all.
That's a third of my time. Well, I'm lucky. I work with a lot of the vendors who find value in what you're describing.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if I'm a vendor, hey, I know a guy who could put our stuff through the ringer.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And
Yep.
so, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without the cooperation of a bunch of folks. We've talked about Phoenix LiDAR tonight. The folks at Emerson who make the hover map. I mean, I can count them all probably on one hand, but they make things possible for a whole lot of reasons. Not to include being a fan of, interesting investigations, whether they're, classic archaeology or Skinwalker Ranch or the paranormal or whatever. So you never know where you will find people interested in similar things.
And you never know where you're going to find Pete Kelsey working next. Oh, I tell you what, you got to keep us posted on it, Pete, because I tell you what, I am a huge fan of you and your work. And I'm so glad that you came on the show tonight and talked about this with us once more. And it took us into a deeper lesson on both the photogrammetry and the LiDAR. I tell you what, I couldn't have asked. You can't pay for this, folks. You can't go out and pay. Well, Beth and those, and thank you, Beth and Kate. I really appreciate you donating. Very nice of you. Thank you so much. But honestly, to have you come on and explain all this stuff for us and give us your insights in it, I can't thank you enough. Just fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I really, you have to keep us posted because, like I said, I'm a fan of your career and I want to be able to share with other folks what you share with us. So I really
common interest, Jeff. Right back at you.
Absolutely.
So do I. I mean, the white whale's still out there, and I'm still Ahab. So
that's awesome. Any final thoughts, Shannon or Seth?
Well, I'm strapped in for the ride, ready for more.
Yeah, right. I'm going to be thinking about everything that you said, the mechanical resonance thing, and then my brain was broken for like 10 minutes after that. So I have lots of...
That happens a lot with the Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah. And I'm the type of person that like I'll hear something and then it'll take me time to like process it. So lots to think about.
And then you have the weird synchronicities where you go and you talk to somebody, you go, you know what I just heard? And they go, I just heard about that, or I just heard about that. It happens.
Super strange. Super strange. Only recently, though. Last year, I'd say it's kicked up.
Yep, right there you go. You got a lot of people out there that have loved to hear what you had to say tonight, and I really appreciate it. All right, so we're going to wrap it up, folks. Been a little over 2 hours, but I tell you what, it has been a fabulous 2 hours. Thanks again to Pete Kelsey and Shannon and Seth and all the folks that were watching here tonight. There will be more as we go along through this. We're going to do more episodes. Of course, we're going to do every single one as we go along. And I am sure you will see Pete Kelsey on this show once more, at least once more, as we go along through this ride and through his career. So thank you, folks, for being here. And don't forget, next week we'll be doing this again on Friday night, 7:30. It'll be episode number 5 we'll be talking about. And we may have another special guest. I can't say just yet who this person will be because I don't have confirmation yet, but we should have a special guest for next week as well. So look forward to that. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll catch you next time right here on the JFree906 podcast. Good night, everyone.